Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar Hoke here, joined by Tom Jacobs. Tom, when we have the discontinuity of the DP World Tour schedule, it's hard to celebrate. This is now the second time we've gone off a winner into a break.
Yep.
But last time out, Marco Penji, he ended up, with that victory. I think it was 40 to 1, 50 to 1, depending on when you got it. A lot of signs pointed that way, and ultimately he delivered on Sunday. Kind of a triumphant win for him, overcoming the suspension that he had and just fully implanting himself. Here we go for him to potentially get into a PGA Tour card this year.
Yeah, look, we're a great pick by yourself, and I know he was obviously reasonably popular. But for me, it took some convincing. Once you sort of talked through it, I definitely got it, and was glad you went that way. But between you and Brad, I needed some convincing, and I'm glad you both were on him. He was a great pick, and we didn't get to see it. That was a shame. We didn't see any TV coverage, right, of it. But yeah, good run, and as you say, we don't get to build the momentum. Feel like a tour player at the moment, Sky. We're not being able to build any momentum, having to take the break. But no, it's good. It's a good run, and hopefully we extend that again this week. We're sort of picking winners. The last two, Chikara was 45, right? Paying 50. So nice range.
Yeah, for both of those guys too. We won't be doing a PGA Championship preview, which is in a couple weeks, but I believe both of them are into the PGA Championship. There was the Asian Swing point, so I'm really excited for Chikara to get a spot start in a major championship like that. I mean, I think that's and Penge too with his distance that he can play with. I think Nakajima was the third one earning that spot, but. I mean, I'm excited definitely to see Chikara on the bigger stage with some of these guys once again after leaving Live.
Yeah, I think if anything I said before about Chikara being potentially an absolute superstar rings true, and this is not a singular opinion, right? I think people will generally agree, and he was certainly on that trajectory before Live. If that comes live, then we want to see him on the biggest stage, and that's the only way we're going to get the barometer of where he's at, right? Because yes, it's great that he's shown his consistency over 3 or 4 events straight away on a DP World Tour since he got his card, or got invites and then sealed his card. But we just don't know until he plays against the best again. That's always the long argument, isn't it, between the PGA Tour and Live and all those sort of things. So, looking forward to that. I think it should be good, and I expect him to do well, actually. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have this week Turkish Airlines Open into PGA Championship, and then it is a little bit more of a steady run that they'll have. And it looks like, for the most part, we're over most of those co-sanctioned events. So these fields, although I do like getting the opportunity to bet some of the local or, challenge tour or even smaller tour guys feeding in. But we're going to have kind of a normalcy, I think, after the PGA Championship on the DP World Tour, almost until that we get to the Open Championship, and then it cranks up to some of those better events to close out the year. But still a decent field that we have in Turkey. We haven't seen this course specifically, I think, since 2018 is the last time we saw it, right? Justin Rose was the winner. It brought up great memories because, a golfer who dominates this course, Lucas Bjerregaard, is back in the field. Just the glory days of when he was at the peak of his game. Did you hear anything about him at the Masters this week or this past week? So Shotgun Start reported this. This was really odd, but he was there doing media, and he won the media lottery and got to play Augusta on the Monday afterwards.
I don't know how I feel about that. Is that great that he was there as media, first of all, because it would explain a lot. Because I think he was doing a lot. Didn't we say about he was kind of yearning for Augusta on his Instagram? It felt like it makes sense now that he was there as media. But I mean, one, it takes away, I guess, a slot from a genuine just media person that would have no other chance of playing Augusta. But two, must be a kick in the teeth for him. But that's the only way he's played Augusta these days.
Especially, I mean, he was good on debut. I think he finished T21. He was good. The glory days of Man Rocket. But if we look into the top of this field, what we have here, Tom. So Haotong Lee, who has some exceptional history here too. Jordan Smith, the sub 20-1 golfers, and then only two others that are in the 20s. Wen Yi Ding, Hughes Luton over there. Tom, I know you are doing something a little bit abnormal for yourself, which is picking the literal odds-on favorite. Well, odds-on is a bit of, but the lowest odds on the entire board. So Haotong Lee kicking off your card.
Yeah, look, I think Haotong Lee's been at the top of the odds board pretty much since he won, right? And he was even there, I think, or close to it when he won as well. And for good reason. He's been very consistent this year. His ball striking has been great. We keep talking about the fact that he's now kind of lapping up these kind of made cuts and top finishes more so than he has done probably throughout his career, right? He's always been a winner, but consistency has never been his strong point. But now it just looks like he's found a different part of his game. And you look at you mentioned the course form already. He's got 2 second place finishes here. He's lost in the playoff to Justin Rose last time, and he came second to Thorgan Anderson, I think, by a few shots. But the thing I sort of think about that, first of all, on debut, he never was outside the top 4 all week. The last time when he lost to Justin Rose, he was actually 54-hole leader, shooting a 63 on Saturday, and then shoots 71 and loses in the playoff. But it's taken probably 2 of the best players in the field both times to beat him. Like Justin Rose would have been the best player. He was defending champion when he won it, and Thorgan Anderson has been a huge player on tour for a long time, and would have been probably at the peak of his powers then. So it feels like we have to elevate almost Haotong Lee's ability in this field comparatively to what he would have been stacked up against in those 2 or 3 years. And then you factor in the fact that he's already got those 2 second place finishes. It's not as easy as simple. He's gone second, he's now going to go first. It's slightly easier, but it does feel that way considering how well he's striking the ball. His approach play has been great. Tees to green has been brilliant. So just with the way he's playing, I mean, he's been inside the top 6 in approach for 5 of his last 8 starts, inside the top 8 in tees to green on 4 of those occasions as well. There's not going to be people that are in better kind of positions course-wise than him. And even 2 starts going into home open, he was the 36-hole and 54-hole leader. So I just think there's another win coming for Haotong Lee on this season. I think he's probably going to get a PGA Tour card. And yes, he is 16-1. He is the favourite, and it isn't our style at all. But I think if he was 16-1 second favourite and there was a 12-1 shot, I think people would actually be more entitled to bet him. And actually, I just think the price is fine in the end.
Not only you, but Bear Off also on Haotong Lee, showing just a little bit of just the life of what it looks like. And truthfully, yeah. I mean, that would cement him on the PGA Tour, a win here, and again, steady Eddie all season long for Haotong. I get it, and I'm not really opposed, and he would definitely be the one that I would think of that core group who has just showed that level of consistency. And I mean, there's probably one other golfer, but who took a little bit of time off that we, haven't seen in a little bit, that you actually are going with 2 sub 50-1, who probably is the second best player over this time period, realistically, right? So Adrian Sadier, super interesting too.
Yeah, so for Sadier, I mean, he was 13th for the Ras Al Khaimah, 35th in Qatar, where he was 5th after round 1. And then he just goes on this run. He was 7th in Kenya, where he's inside the top 5 for second and third rounds. He withdrew in the South African Open, but straight away finishes 19th the following week, where he was second off 36 holes and 54 holes. Finishes third at the Singapore Classic, where we don't know if he'd got an extra round where he had an extra, a chance. And then 5th at the Indian Open, where he actually started slowly and bounced back quite nicely. And I guess the only concern with Sadier Sky is he's taken a break. Like, this is week 6 of have that break. So he's had 5 weeks off, no competitive golf in that time. The chance of just form dropping off at any time is quite high for someone of that caliber, right? I think it's, we're not talking about a, Rasmus Højgaard or someone like that who would have been steady every week. He is, this is an abnormality that he's this consistent. So the fact that his iron play has just been so good, he's been 12th or better in tees green in past 4 starts. He has won on the Challenge Tour before. As you said, apart from Haotong Lee, most informed player, definitely the most informed player before this break. I'm just willing at 35 to 1 to give him one shot of, okay, he can keep this going for one more tournament, or he's going to really struggle this week, and it's because he's had that time off and the form's gone and he missed his chance. But I think at 35 to 1, it's worth finding out.
You got to think he's just not motivated. Like PGA Tour life might not be for him, right? In the sense of you're just going to play what you're going to play, because he's probably right in that bubble, right about 25th overall in the Rolex rankings, taking a substantial break.
Yeah.
Even though, like, realistically, these are going to swing a lot on some of those bigger events, a major championship, a co-sanctioned event. I even saw Patrick Reed from his third at the Masters, like technically would be in the top 10 of it too. So, a lot will swing, but you got to think that's just not a motivating factor for him. So, I mean, I would definitely be open to giving that a chance and thinking it's going to come back. And that's kind of what you have to do in some of these ranges, unless you're finding other ways in. And kind of like Haotong, like I don't disagree, but it's also 7-8 years ago of course history that we're kind of relying on, that he's probably a different player than he. So it's unless you're going off of form, like you're just kind of speculating on maybe crossovers. And the course doesn't seem anything crazy resort style. I mean, doesn't, Rose being the winner 2 years in a row, kind of being the best player there, doesn't tell me like all that much from a power standpoint or an accuracy standpoint. I just think that's something that we're leaning into form. And I'm going into the next golfer, and I guess I'll preface this. Baroff did just post his card. He actually isn't on Haotong, so no disrespect, Baroff. I know you wouldn't rip a favorite like that, of course, but he's also in the midst of fixing my swing too. So we're getting close. We're getting there, Tom. My first selection off the board, this is a definite problem for me. Small sample sizes, of course, right? Like I live for those, but also coming from events that typically people aren't getting much looks into is kind of like even better for me, to kind of at least feel like I'm getting an edge in some ways. And I paid a lot of attention to the Zurich Classic, and the Spanish duo of Del Rey and Angel Ayora were two that like got that last minute exemption. Thought it was very interesting to follow. Ayora carried that team. He was 7 under on Thursday in their best ball. If you look at their best versus their worst holes on Friday, like Del Rey was putting them in bad positions all day, or not capitalizing on good drives or approaches. Really, like they graded it out. Like Ayora was one at Data Golf. Ayora was one of the best players in the entire field. So you get that. And again, I mean, we thought incredibly highly of the golfer coming in, right? I mean, he was young stud off of the Challenge Tour, showing a ton of, I don't want to say consistency, like right out of the gates. I mean, on the Challenge Tour, very much so, but he was 6th, 23rd, 5th his first 3 starts. Then has only posted one, I guess 2 other top 20 finishes dating back to February, and then nothing for him pretty much since then. So we're getting him more now in kind of this discovery range of 50 to 1 available in a weaker field, but like a standard field where he was typically 30, high 20s, where you could get him. So I just think hopefully a spark from the Zurich Classic. We've seen a lot of golfers kick on after that event. I'm hoping that kind of gave him a little bit of juice there, and you can get him in his Super Town at what I think is a pretty good number.
Yeah, I think like when you consider what we talked about here, but we sort of joked about the schedule just not getting a run of events right, that the people that are going to harm the most are the Ayoras of the world that have had an incredibly consistent Challenge Tour season, were expected to go on and do great things, and just haven't been able to play 4 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, and then just they haven't had to sort of pick their schedule. They've gone, right, I have to play again. Like if I don't play this week, there's 2 weeks where I can't play again. It definitely makes you probably go and play events you don't want to go and do. To go and play 2 weeks in China for some people wouldn't have been on their card, but they would have had to do it just to build up these reps. And he obviously hasn't done that because he's gone over to Zurich. He's then played the Puerto Rico Open when he got an invite over there as well. So he's had this kind of balancing act of not missing out on opportunities that he's got, but also just not doing probably what's best for his game, which is probably just to go and play DP Tour stuff as much as he can. So as you say, I think the 50 to 1 is the first time I've felt it's been generous on Ayora. I think the book's been pretty defensive against him for the most part and for good reason. And now it feels like, right, okay, the results aren't there, but those little flashes you talk about with the Zurich is probably enough to go at him. And I think he's got a great chance.
Yeah, I just think reading through the tea leaves of that event versus throwing it out is something that I really like to do. And, that was somebody like more than Smith and Cantor, like neither of them showed all that much life. Like Aora was carrying Del
Yeah.
Rey through that event. And Del Rey is now priced lower than him this week too, So, okay. So I'm going there. 50s, you're up next here at 60 to 1.
Yeah, Adrian Ategi is 60 to 1. And look, this is the thing you have got to factor in, Sky, to your point about Haotong, is that we are 8 years removed, or 7 years removed from the last time we played it, right? Like that can't be ignored. But history suggests, in the short sample size of the 3 years that we played here, that you did repeat form. Like Justin Rose wins twice, Haotong Li finishes second twice. So we should be looking, I think, to people that have been consistent here. And Adrian Ategi has done that. In his 3 visits here, he was 13th, 73rd, and 3rd. Obviously, 73rd, not a great result, but he was 27th going into the weekend and just had a poor couple of days. When he was 13th, he shot a 63 in round 2 to be second going into the weekend. And then the last time he played here, he shot 2 rounds of 65 to really get himself into contention. And I think it's really important, Sky, for when we're in this kind of holding pattern, I think, with the DP World Tour, of like, no one's really getting on a run. We can't really pick out who's this. I guess Haotong's one of them, but like this golfer that we can pin our hat on and go, look, they've done 6 weeks in a row and it's been really good all the way along. We should then defer to the people that we know can win. And Adrian Ategi is a 5-time DP World Tour winner. He's definitely, boosted himself for the last 4 years. Seems to be every time he gets in the mix, he has a real go at winning. And we should elevate that in this current standing of a lot of unknowns about players. And considering he's just finished 26th and 11th in his past 2 starts in China, making it 3 top 26s his last 4, as soon as you see a bit of life from a player of his ilk, I think we say about kind of like the Rafa Bao and Marcel Siem and all those players, and Nategi's far younger than these guys, that you just have to elevate them. Like, we know he can win. He's shown some life in the last 2 starts, and he likes his golf course. 60 to 1. I don't know how we don't go on Adrian Ategi, especially when the approach plays look solid, 25th and 7th, and then 22nd both times in T-screen as well. I think he's actually really overpriced at 60 to 1.
Yeah, just somebody you just trust in the mix on Sunday, like without a doubt, like he's up in a leaderboard. And what's it, El Perita? Does he still call himself, you think, that with his new affiliation?
Yeah, Lord knows. I mean, he's going to be at the Olympics, isn't he? Right. So I think it's amazing that we have this thing in golf that we think Matthew Jordan should be 33 to 1 because he's never won. We expect him to win at some point, so we'll just keep relying on that at 33 rather than taking a guy that we know has won 5 times at 60s. The form isn't that much different for them to be that far apart. I'm picking on Matthew Jordan as the first person I saw in that range, but it applies to Bairstow, Veerman, Guerrier, like everyone really. It even applies to Campillo, who obviously has won, but less so than Ategi. I think I'm surprised he's this big of a price, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an angle that's very interesting. Something that I think is starting to get a little trendy overall this week because makes so many points when you're saying it. And I think a lot of people do like to make that jump when you see a little form. We talked about form coming in. I can't stop betting Eduardo Molinari. I can't, Tom. I mean, it feels ridiculous to bet so many times in a row on a 44-year-old golfer. But again, coming out, he was 9th at the Hero Indian Open after being on him in Singapore, where he was 43rd that week, but closed with a 66-69. And then at the Hainan Classic, he finishes 6th, a classy 69-68, struggled on Saturday, and then came back on Sunday with a 67. Like, he warmed up with those 2, Nordic Golf League events, 4th and 2nd, losing in a playoff. And then we just see more good golf after winning Q School. Like, as simple as decent price. Now, again, he was 300 to 1 in those first events, all the way down into 80s now, but no let up of form. And I think it was he hadn't played much or played well kind of at this event historically. But again, I just think enough time has passed, and also he's just showing the best life that he really has in quite some time. So I mean, this is probably the best he has played. Again, we're working on a small sample size of really 6 starts for him, but probably since we were like tracking
Yeah,
consistently the DP World Tour, right? I mean, if he keeps this going, like a very quality player, and I think clearly wants to keep playing versus going to the captain route that some of these guys are doing. So fighting for it on his own, I think 90-1 for Dodo Molinari is super intriguing.
yeah. I think he had a little run, didn't he? I think when we bet Guido to win the British Masters and
British Masters, yes.
ripped our hearts out. I think we bet Molinari as well, and I think like he was in good form then. But like
Yep.
this has been a really strong run. My first pause on him when I looked at him was like, is it going to be too low scoring for him? I thought that was one sort of concern I had, and the fact that he has only played here once when he had the opportunity and didn't play very well. But I think to that point, Sky, like it feels like his game's evolved a little bit. Like he's gone and played Nordic Golf League and played well there and kicked things off. He has gone to Q school and just absolutely ripped out May birdies for fun. Like, has he just got to a point now where he just gets on these runs? I mean, you'd almost have picked Eduardo Molinari for kind of tougher events in the past as opposed to 17, 18 under event. But now I'm not so sure. Like the evolution of him over the last kind of year or so suggests that he could do this. So yeah, I quite like Molinari.
Anybody else in this mid range that, or I guess longer range that you were intrigued by before I close out with 2 triple digit picks?
Just gonna see where this golfer lands. Now this is later on, so we'll come to that. I looked at Crocker just because it feels like we should after the performance he put in. The other one was, and you can get triple digits on him, but he's generally 80-1, was Dylan Fratelli. But that was a case again of he'd finished second here in one single start. And I was kind of trying to upgrade the fact that he'd been and played on the PGA Tour, and that was his kind of first miscut in a while because he played well, didn't he? Finished 4th at the Joburg, 28th at Singapore. He was 7th after 2 rounds. I just felt like we could probably go in again on Fratelli, and I might still do. There's a bit of space on the card, but I didn't want to get too caught up in just repeating those. Okay, someone's played well here in the past, and I felt like I'd got enough of a feel of that with Haotong and Ategi. But he was the one in that mold again, where I think he's got a second here. He's played well before he went back to the PGA Tour. Fratelli is a class player. 80-1 to 100-1 seems pretty generous.
Yeah, the 2 for me that I was pretty close on. Again, I'm keeping kind of a tighter card. You only have 4 selections at the moment. I know we have 3 events this week covering Myrtle Beach and Truist Championship. But Christopher Wrighton, he finished second, last time out to Penge with, I think, a 76 on Saturday, or it was like a mid 70s round to go all the way back up. So to really fight himself into the mix with that poor of a round, I thought was pretty interesting for somebody who, if this was more guaranteed that we were going to see a Bombers fest, I would have gone into there. I think this course is just not as much into potentially his skill set, but again, he went 66, 75, 66, 67. So to finish second by shooting 75 and losing by 3 strokes, I thought was very interesting. He was one, and then I actually thought, and maybe it's a similar reason, I thought you might be going back to Connor Purcell, who you had bet at that event, finished 20th, closed with a 65. He was the one that I thought you might be in on.
Yeah, I thought about it. I just didn't get there. I felt like everything kind of aligned for him in that 1 week where we did it in China and didn't quite live up to it. I mean, he didn't do an awful lot wrong. He played pretty solidly, but I felt like it was almost a one and done situation for me there. So yeah, I was quite happy to leave, but it makes sense.
Yeah, so those are the 2 that I did a couple double checking with, but I will go into Davis Bryant next, to drastically shortening as we continue to talk, was available at 175s this morning. I mean, I'm good in triple digits with him, honestly. He's just showing so much consistency. And I mean, that's just from somebody who really wasn't getting the starts, right? I mean, he got from December until Magic Kenya Open, he got 3 DP World Tour starts in kind of a 9, 10 week span. And then he popped down to the Challenge Tour come March, and he goes 6th, 26th, 4th. And then at the Heineken Classic, finished 23rd, Open 72. That was his worst round of the week. So just steady Eddie from him. And I think, again, we talked about him last show, and really he had that prowess on the mini tours. He was arguably the best American mini tour player in 2024. So to then get the life through Q school and now get some consistent starts, I think for him, a golfer like that can kind of take a breath and be like, okay, I'm going to have a stretch run of starts is so important, because you're just trying to get your feet under you. I mean, he's now got himself up to 157th in the rankings, top 120 retain their DP World Tour card. So like there is a sense of you got to get going when you have these starts, and hopefully a stretch run of 3, 4 in a month span can get him kind of regulated on like playing consistently good golf like he started to show.
Yeah, and I think the reason I was quite interested in him, and still am to a degree, is that yes, there's clear upside in the top 10 when he drops down to the Challenge Tour, and then they're kind of a bit more middling when he comes up to the DP World Tour. But they're strong enough, right? Like it was really good last time out in China, and the fact that he's not having this huge drop off and there is a consistent run on both tours is really strong. And like we said about Ayora, he would have been one that just wanted to hit the ground. He wanted to get certain events and play 4, 5, 6 in a row, not have to drop between 2 tours, depending on what he got into and all these sort of things. So him just having this little run now will be beneficial, and the number's pretty big for someone that is, the upside is top 10s in the last 4 starts, regardless of whether they're Challenge Tour or not. We've already seen in South Africa a lot of the Challenge Tour guys come up and play really well, and I see no reason why on a resort style course in Turkey that the Challenge Tour player can't make the step up as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really the line of thinking is you get somebody at a decent number in an okay field in good form. And that's kind of led me also to the last selection here. If like it's available 350s right now, I'd probably be good down to 200 or so. Tadias Titak, great name, all-time name. He's now ripped off 3 top 20s in a row, 2 of them being Challenge Tour, UAE, Abu Dhabi, and then 16 at the Hainan Classic, where he was 4th after the opening round with a 67. He had played 2 other times in the DP World Tour, 13th at the Mayo Open, 42nd in Mauritius. So again, he was like in that fringy status, getting through on qualifying school, where you're just not going to get very many starts. But he turned professional, I believe, in 23. And then he played the Pro Golf Tour primarily with a couple mix and Challenge Tour starts. 2024 on the Pro Golf Tour, 2 wins, 4 other top 5s for him. So pretty dominant year on that tour. And then finally, hopefully settling in for a run of starts. And he is somebody who, like, I think, from an all-around game, I kind of thought he was a driver heavy. That's why I looked into it. And it's super tough when you don't get stats on these guys, but it looked like his distance was primarily due to elevation. Like in Kenya, he averaged 340 off the tee, but that's because everyone was averaging 355 at elevation, So still trying to figure out a lot of these guys' game from a strokes gain statistics standpoint. Hopefully we get some more of those for them throughout the summer. But again, just 3 top 20s in a row, early flashes, getting form, and then a bomb of a price. That's kind of getting me to round out with one last long shot.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Like as we said, there's 3 straight top 20s, one of them on the DP World Tour. Huge price for resort style course. There's not really much to really consider, right? I know that there is a pause in terms of what do we think about these profile of players, what is there in terms of stats, but we'll figure it out. Like it's good that we're getting back onto mainland Europe and we'll see these sort of things and we can really suss out these players. So I like it. I think taking a 350 to 1 shot in a week like this, like for example, I was tempted to go with like Nicholas Colsaerts because he's just got good history here and he can flash at any point, but he's 250 to 1. We're talking about 100 points bigger for someone as a potential as opposed to someone that's spending half the time in the commentary box. It's Matthias Schwab loves the Turkish Airlines Open and but he's playing horribly. Let's focus on the people that are actually playing some good golf and can flash at any point. So Tatak makes a lot of sense. And I've got kind of one more in this range we want to go in there as well.
The only one before I forget that I forgot in the mid range too. Did you ever look at Jacques Kruwitz at all this week? Or
yes.
He also seems like that golfer that's like crushed his
Yeah.
last 4 or 5 times out. I mean, a win, two seconds, one of them Sunshine Tour, one of them on the DP World Tour. Like, it just feels weird to kind of get good prices on golfers like that, and then but then you just think like it's Josh Cruz, which we've seen him for a decade now. Like, we know what he is, but maybe there is a change. But that was the only one that was on my mind or kind of fringe card worthy here. So if you want to go into anybody else that you like down the board too.
Yeah, like first of all, I definitely looked at Crossfit. Like I had the same sort of pause as you in the sense of like it took so long for this to happen. Is it suddenly going to happen twice in the space of there was only weeks and it was 55-1, but it's so good. The form is incredible, right? But the two I looked at, 175-1, I think both of them are. And the first one was Alexander Levy, and again, this all came down to great course form here. Two top 30s and an attempt the last time he played here. Is finding a bit of form now. I think he's made his last two cuts on DP World Tour, 36th in China Open, 23rd in the Hainan Classic. I just think probably it's a stretch for him to win. The other one is Jordan Gumberg, Sky, and I think this is probably one for you to kind of comment on as well, putting you in the hot seat here. But he was horrible outside of his win last year, like absolutely horrible. Lost strokes generally every week in every sort of department. But I think that almost came just like success came too soon to him. If you look on his Challenge Tour in 2023, had a second in the Irish Challenge and third in the Scottish Challenge, and not a lot else. But he played US Open in that way. He then went to Q School and all these sort of different things. And all of a sudden he gets us, gets into the SDC Championship, wins. And then it's like, well, he's got to find a way to be successful on the DP World Tour. And I just don't think he had it yet. And I think that's absolutely fine. He is 30. It's not like we're talking about a really young player. But if I just want someone I think is going to be fairly relentless in terms of accuracy, he seems to be that candidate. And when you look now, 16th for the Australian Open towards the end of last year, started the year was 17th for the Dubai Desert Classic, 14th for the Singapore Classic, 16th for the Hanoi Classic. He's just putting together a decent run of events, and this consistency is out of character. And I think we should explore that. Like, he was 22nd at halfway and 53rd in Kenya, 20th after round one of the South African Open, second round 64 in Joburg, and 20th at halfway. Looks like he's just building, a really good profile. Third after round one of the China Open, 14th after round two. It just keeps going. He was ninth going into the final round of the Hainan Classic. So I actually think Gumberg is a final bet for me at 175-1. It just strikes me that he's finding something else in his game.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Somebody who definitely I triple check every week to kind of get maybe a reason on, and he was somebody who, like, he's changed his off the tee game, it seems like, and really just kind of delivered not just accuracy, but also still have an ability to kind of gain on the field. I really liked him at the Hero Indian Open, and he was miserable there.
Yeah.
But I think this type of event could be kind of perfect for him. I mean, SDC, if I remember, it wasn't like I guess it was still 12 under, but it wasn't a course that you would like overpower or anything. That kind of reminds in some ways of having the tree line and the ability to just play your game, and a load of different players on that leaderboard were there. So I could see him totally kicking on, and I think it's a good catch seeing how, again, the 3 rounds, the 36 hole type of samples that he's showing a ton of life in. So I think he's very, very strong. I think there was one other that I was going to talk about. Who was it? Him? No, I had somebody else. Blanking now. I think it was Andreas Halverson.
Yeah.
Have you looked at him at all? Like, he has some random, like, really good finishing. Like, he's got like a 5th and a 6th. He was really good in the Indian Open and popped down the Challenge Tour, finished second, kind of in between there. China. I was surprised, like, he's still not really priced all that much. Came out 76, shot a 68 to make the cut. He was somebody I was starting to kind of bookmark to keep my eye on form-wise too.
He felt more, whereas Brian seemed to go, he dropped down, made 2 top 10s on the Challenge Tour, and then had good results on the DP World Tour. It was like Halverson had that one in India, and then it was a bit inconsistent. He just didn't seem to have the kind of more stock behind him. But the high upside for Halverson is, he was really impressive in India, right? Like they looked for a lot of that he could actually make a run at winning. He didn't go away at all. So the eye test was really good that week. It's just since then it's it feels like it could be a bit of a flash in the pan, but it's hard to tell.
I think people will also question us not betting Martin Kuvra. And we've been big on him from before too. 5th last time out. That is now his 4th or 3rd top 5 finish, 4th top 10 finish in, I believe, 10 starts, 11 starts. He's been pretty dang good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a standout 100 to 1 over here for Kuvra. Generally speaking, like 50, 60 to 1. When I was looking this morning, that 100 to 1 wasn't available. The 100 to 1 is a completely different prospect when you just literally talking about someone who just finished 5th on their last start, first of all, right? And then to have the upside he has, as you said, 3 top 5s in his last kind of 7 or 8 events is ridiculous. It was Bahrain, it was Qatar. I don't have any strong reasons why I wouldn't bet that.
Yeah, it looks like stateside there might be they're dwindling quickly for Kuvra, but yeah, I mean, I think his ceiling is there with a low floor, and you probably get some price inflation due to that. But I think that puts a bow on it from what I'm thinking for the week with my 4, your 4. So want to make sure to give a shout out to all the audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the mix, available all across your podcast platforms. Rate, review, subscribe. Goes a really long way for us. The comments on YouTube are super appreciated too. Thankful for all the listeners and support. And I know it's bouncing a lot from a schedule standpoint in the DP World Tour. We've tried to be consistent as we could be with a handful of winners now so far in 2025. So been another good season for us, Tom. So if you want to go back through your card from the top.
Yep, certainly. So Haotong Li is 16 to 1, Adrian Sadier 35 to 1, Adrian Ategi 60 to 1, and then Jordan Gumberg at 175 to 1. And I do like the Davis Bryant 175 to 1. I think he's coming in a bit now, but I do like that number.
All right. So I will be going first off with Angel Ayora, 50 to 1, Eduardo Molinari, 90 to 1, Davis Bryant. I'm going to officially post it at 150 to 1 here. And then Titak, so Tadias Titak, Tetak, at 350 to 1 available as it's recording. So we'll add probably, top 10 on him too. But hopefully, Tom, we can get ourselves a big one here. Again, next week, PGA Championship, we will not have our show, and then we'll be back for a stretch run coming after that. Tom, thank you as always. Super appreciative of you. And then we'll catch you guys here in 2 weeks. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, Guy.